All right, we're on Chapter 6, Lesson 3, Solving Equations with Rational Coefficients, page 459. Just like we did with page 458, we are solving for the variable. However, on this page, instead of using decimals, we are using fractions as our coefficient, which means we will need to get rid of the fraction. If you look at a fraction, it is technically a division sign. So 3 over 4 is the same as 3 divided by 4. In this case, to get rid of a fraction, you will need to multiply the inverse. So to get rid of a fraction, because it's a division problem, you need to multiply. That is the first thing we're going to focus on. So 3 over 4x equals 12 over 20. To get rid of that, you need to multiply the inverse, which is opposite. So that is a division problem up here. And inverse means the opposite. That means you're going to flip it. Inverse equals opposite. It means flipped fraction. So the opposite, the flipped version of 3 over 4 is 4 over 3. We do this because to get rid of the 4, if it's on top and bottom, you can get rid of it. So 4 and 4 are gone. The 3 is also on top and on bottom, so you would cross that off. Still, look for that over here. Is there a 3 or a 4? No. But now you can multiply them. So these guys are crossed off, which turns them into 1s. Because 4 over 4 is 1, and 3 over 3 is 1. That is why those are crossed off. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Now, moving down here, they did cross off because they know 4 can go into both 4 and 20. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 20 divided by 4 is 5. 3 and 12. Remember, we're doing cross multiplying here, or cross division here. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 12 divided by 3 is 4. You can then multiply right across. It's looking a little messy, so I'm going to erase it so you can see what I'm doing. 1 times 4 equals 4. 1 times 5 equals 5. 4 over 5. X equals 4 over 5. Now, if you don't want to divide by common factors at this stage, you can multiply first and then divide. So that would look like 4 times 12 equals 4 times 12 equals 48. And that would be 3 times 20 equals 60. 48 over 60 equals 4 over 5. You would divide these both until you can't get any smaller, you would simplify. So you can simplify early on, and it makes that simplified. Or you can simplify after you do your multiplication, which is 48 divided by 60. So if we were to do this, let me show you. You would find your GCF, just like we did in the last section, finding the greatest common factor. So here's how I do it. 48 divided by 2 is 24. So you know it goes 1 and 48. You know it goes 2 and 24. 48 divided by 3 and 16. 48 divided by 4 is 4 and 12. 48 divided by 5 can't be done. 48 divided by 6 equals 8. 48 divided by 7 can't be done. You now ran into it because 48 divided by 8. Let me clean that line up for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 16, 24, 48. That's how I factor 48. 60, I know it goes 1 and 60. I know it goes 2 and 30. 60 divided by 3 would be 3 and 20. 60 divided by 4 is 4 and 15. 60 divided by 5 is 5 and 12. 60 divided by 6 is 6 and 10. 60 divided by 8 doesn't work. 60 divided by 7 doesn't work. 60 divided by 9 doesn't work. And 60 divided by 10. I'm going to clean that line up for you also. 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, and 60. So now we're going to circle all the ones that are the same. Because the ones that are the same is what we can divide these by. We want the largest one. 8, no, 10, no, 12, yeah. Nothing larger than that. Now that we've factored them, you've circled them all, you're only going to take the largest factor, which is 12, and you're going to divide. So 48 divided by 12, 60 divided by 12. So 48 divided by 12 equals 4. 60 divided by 12 equals 5. There are two ways to do this. You can simplify it early on like they did. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 20 divided by 4 is 5. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then multiply. Or you can do it this way. This way does take longer, but if you understand it better, use the way you understand first. That was just example 3. Let us look down at example 4. Again, we are still on page 459. Solving negative 7 divided by 9d equals 5 is going to be done the same way. You're going to flip the fraction. You do not change the negative. You just flip the fraction. And you multiply it on both sides. Again, they factor theirs out. 7 divided by 7 will equal 1 and 1. 9 divided by 9 equals 1 and 1. So those are gone. D is by itself. Now, they can't factor these. They don't get together well. 9 and 1, you divide by 1. It's still 9. 5 and 7, nothing is the same. So, 9 times 5 equals 45. And don't forget that there's a lovely negative here. 7 times 1 is 7. And since this number is larger than this number, you can actually divide it. So this is an answer. You can leave it that way. I won't ask you to simplify unless the problem in the book makes you simplify. Or you can divide and get whatever your remainder is will be your fraction. Let me show you how this part works. So, negative 45 over 7. It turns into, as long as you remember it's going to be a negative answer, you can leave that alone, 45 divided by 7. So, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 can go into 45 6 times. You have a leftover of 3. Instead of putting a decimal and a 0 and bringing it down and keep dividing, instead of doing that, we are creating a mixed number. So, you will have 6 remainder 3. But why is there still a 7 right here? Well, your answer will be negative 6 because of this lovely 6 right here. Negative 6. 3 because it's the remainder divided by 7. That serves as your decimal. Instead of you solving for the exact decimal, this is a rounded version of that decimal that you do not need to solve. And this is correct. This is also a mixed number. What we just made is called a mixed number because there's a whole number and a fraction in the same number. This is called a whole number. And you find it by dividing and not going on to find your decimal. You just do 6, remainder 3. And then, again, you always want to check your answer. So you do negative 7 divided by d equals 5. Negative 7 is multiplied by negative 45 over 7. equals 5. You multiply that whole thing, it'll be a huge number. 315 divided by 63 equals 5. They'll divide it in their calculator, but if you don't have a calculator, you can do it by hand. 315 divided by 63 equals 5. So finally, after all of that, after looking at those examples, let's try the got it examples, E and F and G. Whew. At this point in time, if you will need a separate piece of paper, go for it. I'm going to try to use the space best available to me. There is a work zone in your book that you can use as well. So, 1/2 times x equals 8. This one looks like example 3. We're going to try it using example 3. So you're going to flip your fraction and multiply it. And 2/2, cross that out. 1/1, cross that out. X is by itself. 8 times 2/1, well, 8 is a whole number, but every whole number has an invisible 1 sitting underneath it. Let me focus that better for you. So 8/1. So what you're going to do here is multiply 8 times 2 equals 16. 1 times 1 equals 1. 16/1, 16 divided by 1 is 16. That is letter E. X equals 16. Let's try letter F. This one has a negative in it. So, first thing we do is we are going to flip our fraction. So, -4/3 times -3/4x equals 9 times -4/3. 3 is on top and bottom. 4 is on top and bottom. Both are negatives. So a negative times a negative turns into a positive, so ignore those as well. X equals 9 times -4/3. Whole numbers always have an invisible 1 underneath them. So if it helps you to put them down here, please do so. 9 times -4 equals negative, because it's positive times a negative, 36. 1 times 3 equals 3. -36 divided by 3 is, you forget about the negative, you know it's going to be a negative number. It's just -36 divided by 3, so a negative is our answer. 36 divided by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. -36 divided by 3 is -12. Let's try example G. -7 divided by 8x equals -21 divided by 64. So the first thing we're going to do is the opposite. So negative 8 over 7 times negative 7 over 8x equals negative 21 over 64 times negative 8 over 7. You cross out your 8s, you cross out your 7s, you now have x by itself. Over here, let's try to reduce before we multiply this time. So 21 and 7, both are multiples of 7. So 21 and 7, how many times can 7 go into 21? It's 3 times. How many times can 7 go into 7? It's 1 time. So 3 and 1. Let's do 64 and 8. You know both of those have 8 go into them. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 64 divided by 8 is 8. Now we have 3 over 8, so don't forget your negatives, times 1 over 1, don't forget your negatives. X equals 3 times 1, negative 3 times negative 1 is positive 3. Negative 8 times negative 1 is negative 8. Is positive 8. So x equals 3 over 8. If you need to go over that again, please re-watch the video.